The date is June 11th, 2020. Today, PlayStation is hosting their Future of Gaming show. Many iconic titles would be revealed to the public for the first time here. Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank, Resident Evil, even a Demon's Souls remake. All games made with the intent of pushing this new console to its absolute limits. But wedged between all these iconic titles lay a newcomer that stuck out like a sore thumb. And that game was Goodbye Volcano High. Goodbye Volcano High is a visual novel developed by Co-op, a Canadian game studio. It's safe to say that its inclusion in the Future of Gaming show was met with confusion, to say the least.
What the fuck is this? End the trailer here and don't explain anything, please.
What the fuck is this? Ah, what is that? This is for the little Karens and Betsy's in high school right now. Let me know down below if you plan on playing this game. It's not gonna be me, I can tell you that.
Your eyes are immediately assaulted by some shamelessly furry designs right out the gate. As the trailer progresses though, things only get worse. The soon-to-be protagonists spout some aimless drivel about how they're on the edge of greatness, but their feelings are holding them back, and they're afraid of not being good enough. Your typical teenage angst. Oh, and to top it all off, absolutely no gameplay is shown. The way this trailer carries itself is just insanely tone-deaf to the rest of the presentation. Not to mention out of place. Who the hell was the audience for this game?
Shit, I don't even know,
Would you believe me if I said 4chan? Unbeknownst to anybody who wasn't chronically online, this game was very openly LGBT. Naturally, 4chan's video game board did what it does best, and tore this game to absolute shreds. There were plenty of reasons to dunk on this game. The art style, the character designs, the fact that it thought it could share a stage with bug snacks. However, what most anons focused on was the protagonist of this game, Fang, the non-binary pterodactyl. Now, most people hurled their slurs, dumpstered the game, and called it a day, but some anons took it a bit too far in a way you might not have expected. Most flavor of the month topics like Goodbye Volcano High died down after a bit, but GVH kept getting thread after thread after thread, and weirdly enough, those who stuck around actually started to grow attached to Fang. It was strange, definitely not the expected outcome. So, the notoriously bigoted 4chan had come to accept the LGBT dinosaur game. How about the target demographic for the game? Did they like it? Not at all! A woman by the name of Kate Gray was revealed to be the main writer for GVH, and apparently, Kate had a history of writing some interesting articles for Kotaku, the most notorious of which being an extremely graphic article about the underage characters of Harry Potter. It was not a good look. Not at all. In fact, it was such a bad look that Kate was immediately pulled from the Goodbye Volcano High team as soon as people dug this up, and the game was delayed to make room for a total rewrite.
Hear me out, please!
This isn't even the strangest turn in our story. No, that comes next. As GVH's date was pushed back, threads for the game continued to show up on V, and a marvelous idea dawned upon the remaining frequenters of these threads. They knew they liked Fang and the colorful cast of characters of Goodbye Volcano High, but they most definitely did not like the direction of the game's writing. So, why not just write it themselves? And thus, Snoot Game was born. Snoot Game is a parody visual novel created by the collaborative efforts of various anonymous 4chan users. It began development on June 15th, 2020, and was released just under a year later. Around the same time Goodbye Volcano High was supposed to finish development. There's a first time for everything, and apparently 4chan had decided that it would be the first time a feature-length fangame would release before its source material. And not only that, but well ahead of Goodbye Volcano High's actual release. It was an actual full-length experience, not just a low-effort shitpost. Snoot Game had an OST, story, and visuals all of its own. The only thing it really took from Goodbye Volcano High was the character designs. The amount of effort that went into it was simultaneously impressive and very troubling. As Snoot Game continued to pick up traction around the internet, Goodbye Volcano High would drag its feet to the finish line and release on August 29th, 2023, 2 years after Snoot Game and 2 years after the initial release date promised in the PS5 reveal trailer that kicked off this entire story. So, I'm sure at this point you might be wondering which of these games ended up being better. The fan game or the real deal? Well, I would love to tell you what I think, but it simply wouldn't be fair to pick a winner given the limited information I've told you about both. So as a result, I will be critiquing both of these games individually, then comparing the two objectively to see which one comes out on top. We've got a lot to get through, so let's get to it, starting with Goodbye Volcano High. Goodbye Volcano High is a goddamn disaster.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Right out the gate, this game trips and falls on its face. There's absolutely no sound effects or music on the main menu. The main menu! When I first booted up this game, I messed with the audio settings for at least 10 minutes because I was just in absolute disbelief that they would sell me a $30 game that didn't even have menu music. Is it a weird thing to get hung up on? Maybe. But the main menu of a game is important. You don't even need music. Just some ambience would be nice, like what Half-Life 2 does with its main menu, but nope, Goodbye Volcano High just boots up in absolute silence. And while I would love to say that the problems for this game end here, they most definitely do not. Characters often have their dialogue abruptly cut off at the end of their sentences for whatever reason, and the fast forward feature can break the game. Not only that, but music will blast at max volume regardless of your settings.
I think it's sound effects.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, that doesn't change.
It's sound effects. I bet it's sound effects. And my theory is right.
No.
It's a mess, there's no way around it. But even if you can stomach these issues, the rest of the game isn't much better at all. The game stars Fang, the non-binary pterodactyl, and their quest to do... Yeah, this story doesn't know what to do with itself. Unlike Snoot Game, there is no central theme, there is no character growth, nothing of the sort. The only semblance of a consistent conflict throughout this entire pitiful experience is an asteroid hurtling towards Pangea, and honestly, that's a good conflict. But you hardly get to see any of it! The meteor is revealed like an hour into the game, but for whatever reason, kind of gets sidelined for Fang's Secret Admirer, the Battle of the Bands, D&D! Fucking D&D? The world's ending in a week, why are you wasting your time on D&D? Don't even get me started on this. This is the absolute worst part of this game, bar none. Somewhere down the line, they must have realized, shit, this game can be completed in 2 hours. We gotta pad this so people can't just refund it.
Hey, what if they played D&D for like 2 hours of our 5-hour game?
I am not playing this up for the review. I'm not playing a Doug Walker, I'm not playing an angry video game nerd. The D&D segments of this game are horrible, long, drawn out, and serve zero purpose in moving the narrative forward. It's blatant padding. Through and through. The characters are all pretty bland and one note. Trish talks about bugs so much that I don't know how else you would even describe her personality other than Bug Lady. Some of the characters almost start to be interesting. Fang has a moment where they get annoyed with their parents for not addressing them by the right pronouns, and I thought, maybe this game will actually address an actual conflict, uniquely relevant to our time. Nope, for the amount of transgender characters in this story-based game, they really don't like to go any deeper than, yeah, I'm trans. Yeah, I don't like my family. There's conflict there. Something that could have been uniquely this game's own identity. But nope, we gotta pad the game with 2 more hours of fucking D&D! Occasionally, the monotony of this game is broken up with the rhythm game segment. And it's like, decently fun, I guess? There are no stakes here, you don't game over if you fail, so what's the point? Maybe they realized, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a video game. If they did though, they most certainly did not commit to that realization, because choices in this game do not matter. None. Not at all. Sometimes the game will provide you with multiple choices, you hover over one of them, and then it disappears. Why?
Why?
Why even offer me the illusion of choice? Why not just railroad me like you clearly intend to do? Also, speaking of railroading, there's one ending to this game, and that ending is everyone dies. I don't even feel bad about spoiling it because it's not impactful in the slightest. Imagine how terribly written your game must be if a literal giant asteroid crashing into the Earth and killing everyone has zero impact. The music's pretty good though, and the art's good when it wants to be. I can confidently say that Goodbye Volcano High is a 2 out of 10. There are mere shimmers of greatness here and there, but the majority of the game is shit. Absolute aimless shit. Even free, I would consider this game a waste of my time. Even paid, I would consider this game a waste of my time. And yet, for whatever reason, the asking price for this load of crap is $30. I understand that this game is made by a small indie studio. However, that doesn't mean it's exempt from criticism. This isn't one guy in his basement making a passion project. This is a game made to make money. A game that somehow managed to work its way into a PlayStation 5 showcase. If you want to lay low and make a humble little indie title, maybe don't sandwich your game between Demon's Souls and GTA 5.
We had everything we needed, it all ran like clockwork. It was perfect, but no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego.
I really wanted this game to be good, I did. It would be way more interesting for both of these games to have something to offer, for both of them to stand on their own, independent of each other. But the longer I got into Goodbye Volcano High, the more I wondered why I even bought the game. And that's never a feeling your player should have. Snoot Game stars Anon, a high school senior who's just been transferred to the elusive Volcano High. From the get-go, Anon is depicted as a bit of an unsociable asshole. I mean, the first decision you make in this game is who you should troll online. Soon after this, he is introduced to Fang, the game's main and only love interest. Without hesitation, he is immediately judgmental, calling them dumb and insufferable simply because they gave him a look in passing. Anon is never depicted as the cool guy you should strive to be, and the importance of that cannot be stressed enough. Snoot Game is a story of growth, betterment, and self-actualization. Anon refusing to respect Fang's pronouns initially isn't an attempt from the developers to say that non-binary people's identities aren't valid. It's an attempt to communicate that Anon is an asshole who doesn't really consider the feelings of others at first. My belief in this isn't unfounded. There's a notable scene very early into the game's story where Anon laughs at Fang's band for having an absolutely terrible performance, only to be stopped by his principal on the way out from said performance. Principal Spears warns Anon that everyone is fighting their own battles, and that he's not the only person in the world. The 4 endings of this game reflect this sentiment, with the absolute worst ending resulting from choosing the most selfish of decisions, and the absolute best ending requiring you to allow Fang to make their own decisions, and being there to support them when they do make these decisions. With all that being said, this game is free and best experienced on your own, so you should just give it a try for yourself. Besides, I don't want this to just be another video essay where the narrator summarizes the plot of the game. No, now that I've given you a brief overview of the premise of this game, I believe it's time we look over the content it has to offer, which is a surprising amount. I can't tell you what the average playtime of Snoot Game is because it varies depending on the speed you read. However, this random YouTuber's blind playthrough clocked in at about 18 hours, which is a little on the longer side, but sounds about accurate in my opinion. I mean, it took me 3 days to finish my most recent playthrough, even though I dedicated like half my day to it, so the math checks out. That doesn't even account for other endings or the bonus episodes either. The themes this game explores are unique, to say the least, and I have to respect the fact that they didn't pull any punches with the topics they addressed. Sure, there are some edgy moments here and there that I could do without, but it's an experience. With a little bit of bad, came a lot of good. Lastly, the art of Snoot Game. For being a visual novel produced by a bunch of anonymous volunteers, I'd say it looks pretty good for the most part. Characters are colorful, they've got plenty of poses that they swap between to reflect their emotion, and there's a good amount of CG scenes as well. That being said, many of the backgrounds just look plain bad, and so I will unfortunately have to deduct half a point for that. Overall, I think I'd give Snoot Game a 7.5 out of 10. It's an enjoyable experience from beginning to end, with a surprising amount of love and passion put into what was originally just supposed to be a shitpost game. From what I've heard, the developers of Snoot Game are making another visual novel with their own original characters that they plan to put on Steam called I Wanna Hug That Gator. And it's a lot more subtle with its 4chan influence than Snoot Game, so I'm looking forward to giving that a try. So I think it's safe to say that I believe Snoot Game ended up being the better game. Even if you put aside your own personal biases, Snoot Game objectively offers more. Choices that lead to different endings, a longer playtime overall, and more importantly,
it's free. And how much does it cost? It's free.
Goodbye Volcano High, on the other hand, is incredibly short for its $30 asking price. On top of that, the game has one ending and choices don't matter. I fail to understand why you would even bother purchasing this game when you could get the exact same experience watching someone play it from beginning to end on YouTube. In fact, it might be a better experience if you just watched it, because at least you could fast forward through the D&D segments. And if you can experience a game best through YouTube, why even bother playing the game in the first place? I recommend anyone who has even a little bit of interest in Snoot Game to give it a try. You have absolutely nothing to lose, given the fact that it's free and all, and on the flip side, I would never recommend Goodbye Volcano High to anyone, because I don't even think its target demographic would enjoy it. It's just a bad game, objectively. With all that being said and done, it feels strange to finally see both these games standing side by side with each other. It's a weirdly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't think we'll ever see a full-fledged fan game come out before the main game, and then said fan game ends up being better than the real game. It's inspiring, almost. No matter how much money or time you put into a game, nothing will ever compare to raw passion, especially the raw passion of a bunch of Coomers on 4chan. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, comment, all the usual. I'm gonna go boop a snoot or something. Peace.